Episode 1 of Snowdrop opens in the spring of 1987 at Hosu Women's University. Dorm room 207 is home to the first years Yoon Young-ro and Yoon Seal-wee, as well as senior students Ko Hai-ryong and Yo Ji-young-min. The dorm's phone desk is operated by Kai Bun-ok, who is around the same age as the senior students. Elsewhere, members of Emin Party, the ruling party, meet for Dongsum Society's 30th anniversary. In attendance is the Secretary General, Nam Tae-il, who is ranked second among the party members. In a power struggle with him is Yoon Chang-soo, the director of the Agency for National Security Planning, ANSP, who is ranked third. After the gathering, Tae-il and Chang-soo meet separately with Emin Party's president about the progress of Operation Phoenix. Chang-soo outlines a plan to abduct Professor Han I-seop, the brains behind the opposition party, and make it seem like the opposition party operates with the support of North Korea. Cosmos Toys is a front for ANSP's headquarters, where Agent Yung Ha-na arrives to see the chief, On Ja-young-wee. Also there is Agent Lee Gang-yu, the legendary Black Tiger, who has returned from Germany in pursuit of a North Korean spy referred to as Taedong River 1. Gang-yu is shaken by Ha-na's presence, and she doesn't appear happy to see him either. After shooting metaphorical daggers from her eyes and a literal bullet from her pistol, she forces her way onto Gang-yu's team. That night, a few graduate students, including Im Soo-ho and Oh Gwang-tae, have a rooftop barbecue. According to the girls observing, Soo-ho studies economics at Berlin University and has returned to Korea for his thesis paper. With only 15 minutes left until roll call at the Hosu dorm, Young-ro runs back with a wave of equally frantic students. She comes across Hai-ryong receiving a ring in a love confession from a soldier and urges her to join the throng. On the hill leading to the dorms, Young-ro drops her tin of rice cakes. As it rolls away, Hai-ryong tells her to leave it and keeps running. Young-ro doesn't listen, and the caretaker, Kim Man-dong, is forced to shut the dorm's door and hand over the key to the matron before Young-ro makes it back. Young-ro goes around the side of the building and climbs to the second-story ledge below the bedroom windows. As she inches her way to 207's window, Bun-ok helps to distract the matron from catching sight of her. In 207, Ji-young-min berates Hai-ryong for abandoning Young-ro, since she won't be able to afford a room if she gets kicked out. According to Ji-young-min, Young-ro's family owns a humble rice cake shop, and she relies on scholarships and assisting Bun-ok with the phones to stay at the dorm. Seal-wee spots Young-ro at the window at the same time Bun-ok does. With the matron closing in, Bun-ok cries rat, sending the dorm residents into a frenzy. The 207 girls use the commotion to pull Young-ro in and throw a nightgown over her dirty clothes, while wiping the grime from her visible skin. Later, Young-ro realizes she left her tin by the front door, and goes to retrieve it from Man-dong. He asks her to make a delivery to Bun-ok while she's there. Bun-ok only pokes her head out when Young-ro comes knocking, suspiciously keeping her room concealed. In exchange for incurring the matron's wrath, Bun-ok asks Young-ro to bring her an English edition of Romeo and Juliet. Ha-na joins Gang-yu's meeting the next day. He thinks that Professor Han is likely to have helped Taedong River 1 sneak into Seoul. Ha-na will use the rapport she has established with the opposition party, while pretending to be a journalist fired for condemning the ruling party to keep an eye on the professor. At the dorm, Young-ro vents about the lack of correspondence from her brother, while helping Bun-ok with the phones. Young-ro picks up a call from Gwang-tae, introduces himself and arranges a group date with the girls of 207, though it's mostly an excuse for him to meet Hai-ryong. Gwang-tae, being one boy short of the four needed to pair up with the four girls of 207, begs Soo-ho to join the date. Soo-ho only agrees when Gwang-tae threatens not to introduce him to Professor Han. Meanwhile, Young-ro laments that Ji-young-min is unlikely to go, and Bun-ok eagerly takes her. The day of the date comes around. When the girls from 207 arrive, Gwang-tae jolts out of his seat to greet them, bumping the table and sending the matchstick tower Soo-ho was building crashing. Soo-ho and Young-ro both go to catch it and her hands cover his. It's the beginning of a series of curious glances between the two. Bun-ok joins the 207 girls and throws herself into the seat opposite Soo-ho before anyone else can, introducing herself as a Hosu student named Jae-seung. With 2 concert tickets, she's eager to partner up and leave, preferably with Soo-ho. The girls close their eyes, while each of the boys place a token on the table. Hai-ryong is the first to pick from the tokens and chooses an exam certificate, thinking it belongs to Soo-ho until Gwang-tae reveals that it's his. Young-ro is next. She's drawn to a paper plane, Soo-ho's actual token, and he obviously wants her to pick it, clearing his throat once her hand hovers over it. Bunoke, who overheard Suho and Guang Tae discussing their tokens earlier, swipes the plane before Young-ro has a chance to pick it up. After the date, Young-ro listens to a record at a store and unconsciously sings along. Mortified, she tries to make a quick getaway, and bumps into Suho as he peruses the shelves, having cut his time with Bunoke short. Young-ro, still humiliated, tries to quickly purchase a cassette tape and leave, but finds her wallet empty. She rushes out, but doesn't get far before Suho catches up to her, cassette tape in hand. Feeling guilty about accepting this sudden gift, she runs after Suho as he walks away. Both are unaware of someone watching them from a parked car. Suho sees a group of officers searching for wanted men and turns into a laneway. It's a dead end. Young-ro follows him in, dropping the tape into his pocket. Noticing the officers now crowded around the entrance, she pretends like they're a couple in the midst of a lover's spat. Suho pulls her into a hug. As she trembles, he pats her back reassuringly. It's enough to convince the officers and they move on. Suho comments on Young-ro's convincing acting. She says her brother was once arrested during a protest by way of explanation and walks away. Suho follows, starting to ask her out to dinner, when he notices the person watching from the car. He stops, giving her the tape and his thanks instead. Young-ro is the one to stop him from walking away this time. She says she doesn't like being indebted and asks him to meet her for coffee the next day to return the favor. He never shows, skipping forward 6 months to November. Secret South-North talks are held in Beijing. Tae-il and Chang-soo meet with 2 North Korean officials, Im Jae-rok, head of the United Front Department, and Choi Soo-ryan, the deputy director of the Ministry of State Security, MSS. They sign a contract outlining a large sum of money to be wired to the north within 24 hours. Gang-yu gathers his team and explains that Suho, who has been hanging around Professor Han, is the suspect most likely to be Taedong River 1. Hana has also found no student records for Suho at Berlin University. That night, Suho sits in a car with 2 other men watching Professor Han enter the Hanguk University parking lot. Professor Han's tire is flat, and Suho offers him a ride. Hana, who has been watching covertly, signals the ANSP agents in place. At the next intersection, another car rams into Suho's ride. His driver and the professor are left unresponsive. He instructs the man in the passenger seat, Comrade Ju, to run as Gang-yu pulls up. Suho flees in a different direction, pursued by Gang-yu, Hana, and the other agents. He passes through a crowd of student protesters, including Ji Young-min, calling for fair elections. Riot police begin firing tear gas at the students and closing in on them, forcing them to scatter. Gang-yu tracks Suho to the Hosu dorm. Suho scales the building much like Young-ro did, climbing into room 207 before collapsing. Young-ro gets back to 207 as the ANSP agents burst into the dorm. The matron refuses to cooperate with their search without first seeing a warrant. Ji Young-min uses the commotion to sneak back into the dorm and head to 207. Hai Ryong notices and follows. Gang-yu spots them both, and does the same. In 207, Young-ro realizes that the unconscious person bleeding out on the floor is Suho. A bonus clip takes us back to the rooftop barbecue. Suho strums a guitar and sings a tune for his friends as Comrade Ju, disguised as an electrician, fiddles with a nearby utility. Episode 2 of Snowdrop sheds more light on the situation that led Suho to 207. Too convenient to be a coincidence, Professor Han's flat tire is orchestrated by Suho. Unbeknownst to Suho, Gang-yu has also chosen today to make his move. The car crash is part of Gang-yu's plan. This time, during the chase, we see the ANSP agents open fire on Suho. Gang-yu eventually lands a shot in Suho's back. After Young-ro finds Suho in 207, she starts wiping his blood off the floor and window. Seal-wee comes in soon after. The matron, not a woman to be messed with, uses the dorm speakers to announce that all students are to lock themselves in the nearest room until she instructs otherwise. Hai Ryong and Ji Young-min make it back to 207 as the order is issued. Young-ro assumes that Suho is being chased for protesting and wants them to help her hide him. Ji Young-min gets on board immediately. Hai Ryong, having heard Gang-yu say that Suho is a North Korean spy, is less inclined. She gives in after Ji Young-min asserts that student protesters are framed as spies, so that they can be arrested, and Young-ro reminds her that Suho was one of the boys on their group date. When Hana levels her gun at the matron's head and instructs her to reverse the lockdown, the matron reinforces the order instead. Enraged, Hana almost strikes the matron with her gun, but Gang-yu stops her and sends her to retrieve a search warrant from the prosecutor's office. While they wait for Ha-na's return, Bunoke enthusiastically shows Gang Yu the dorm blueprints without the matron's permission. From them, Gang Yu gleans that the main door is the building's only exit, besides a locked door in the mechanical room. In 207, Suho wakes up, and Young-ro reminds him who she is. He limps to the window, intending to leave to keep the girls out of danger, but Gang Yu is right below. Gang Yu finds a trail of blood leading to 207 right as Ha-na arrives with the search warrant. In her office, the matron has a flashback to being beaten, tied up, and dangled over a dam wall by an unknown captor. Ha-na slaps the warrant down on her desk, bringing her mind back to the present. The matron follows behind the agents as they burst into 207, finding Hai Ryong alone. The matron notices a blood stain that the girls missed near their door, but says nothing to alert the agents. The agents themselves find nothing. When Gang Yu presses for the missing girl's location, Hai Ryong points to the dorm bathhouse. The lie is weak, but the matron backs it with the explanation that there are no speakers in the bathhouse for the girls to have heard the lockdown instructions from. The rest of the 207 girls hide Suho inside a bench in the bathhouse sauna. When they hear Gang Yu drawing near, they undress and cover Suho with their clothes before closing the bench and sitting on it. Ha-na is the only agent to enter the bathhouse after the matron criticizes the impropriety of the male agent storming in. She follows the sound of the three girls singing to the sauna and barges in with her gun raised. As Ha-na questions the frightened trio, a line of blood trickles out from under the bench. Young-ro leaps off the bench, concealing the blood beneath her feet. She plays it off as outrage at Ha-na's intrusion. With the all-clear from Ha-na, Gang Yu pulls his agents out of the Hosa dorm. Meanwhile, the rest of their team hauls Suho's driver, Jun-chil, into their headquarters. The 207 girls transfer Suho to a closet in the bathroom for the night. He wonders how he can repay Young-ro. Not to worry, she says she's just getting, even after he bought her the cassette tape. One of the agents on Gang Yu's team makes a secret call to Chang-su. When Chang-su reprimands the agent for being unable to stop Gang Yu, the agent points back to his orders to act discreetly. The agent also informs Chang-su that Professor Han is sticking to his flat tire story. Tail approaches Chang-su as he finishes the call, unhappy that their plan has gone wayward. Through their back and forth, we learn that Operation Phoenix is their joint operation with North Korea. They provided the funding for the North Korean spies to abduct Professor Han and defame the opposition party. With the public rallying for fair elections, they are eager to sway voters in their direction. The top-secret classification of the operation also meant that Chang-su had to act without the support of the ANSP agency. Even Jeong-wi is kept in the dark. The next day at the ANSP headquarters, Jeong-wi tells Gang Yu to step down from the Tidong River 1 case. Gang Yu tries to argue, but it's a direct order from Chang-su. With not a single article about the gunfire from the chase worming its way into the newspapers, Ha-na smells a cover-up. She asks Gang Yu if they're really backing off the case, and he immediately refutes the possibility, still devastated that he lost a junior agent in Germany to this pursuit. His determination irks Ha-na, and she starts to complain that he didn't show her the same resolve. He cuts her off before we can understand what she means. Gang Yu and his team interrogate Jun-chil until he's swollen and bleeding profusely. Gang Yu can't figure out why the North Koreans abducted Professor Han, after taking such careful measures to get close to him. Jun-chil gives them nothing, ingesting a cyanide pill. The 207 girls, minus Hai Ryong, hatch a plan to stow Suho on the 4th floor in the abandoned, and apparently haunted, cabin where the last matron committed suicide. Needing a key to get in, they convince Mandong to help them. While helping Young-ro and Jeong-min sneak Suho to the cabin, Mandong warns them to watch out for Bunoke, who was enthusiastically asking about the reward money for turning spies in. The ANSP agents stationed outside the campus have clear view of the cabin, which means no lights. It's also right above the library, which means no heavy movements. After the others leave, Young-ro bandages the bullet wound on Suho's shoulder. She notices that he wears a pigeon pendant hanging from a necklace. Young-ro starts smuggling food and supplies to Suho, and even comes up with a knock code, so that he knows when she has come to see him. He asks her for batteries, saying that he wants to use the radio he found to listen for news of his fellow student protesters. Little does she know, he's been secretly tampering with it. Much like their husbands, Hung Era, Chang-su's wife, and Cho Seung-sim, Taeil's wife, are locked in a power struggle. Jeong-wi's wife, Choi Mi-hai, does her best to suck up to Seung-sim at her birthday gathering, wanting to secure a lifeline within the party. She's also pressured Jeong-wi to do the same with Taeil. Meanwhile, Taeil gets a checkup from his doctor mistress, Kang Chung-ya. Chung even provides Taeil with a gift to take home to Seung Sim, having guessed he would have forgotten her birthday. One day, the dorm's student president, Shin Jae-ja, hears the library ceiling creak above her head as Suho shuffles around. A chair gives in when he sits in it, and the crash has the girls in the library scampering away before a ghost can make an appearance. The university campus opens to visitors on Saturdays, but the dorm has a strict female visitor-only policy. Young-ro's brother, Young-yu, has pulled some strings to come see her. He heads around the side of the dorm and shouts for her. Suho also hears from the cabin, where he's been making notes on the ANSP agent's movements, and watches as Young-ro rushes to embrace her brother. That night, as Young-ro tends to Suho's wounds again, he has a flashback to his own sister Sui. In it, Sui gives him the pigeon pendant necklace, and tells him to find his way back to North Korea. Suho tells Young-ro about the pendant's origins and she's relived, having thought it was a present from another. Young-ro uses the bath in the cabin to wash Suho's used bandages. She doesn't notice the water leaking from the tub into the floor drain. It swells through the library ceiling and drips onto Jae-ja's desk. Jae-ja alerts the matron. Taking Man-dong along with them, they head to the cabin to investigate. Bunoke shadows them, eager to find a spy to turn in. As they approach, Young-ro is drawing a rough map of the dorm for Suho. Man-dong makes a show of pretending to unlock the cabin, coughing and muttering to alert Suho and Young-ro to their presence. Unfortunately, there's no way out. Episode 3 of Snowdrop begins as the matron searches high and low through the empty cabin. We cut to Young-ro and Suho balancing on a narrow ledge on the face of the building. Bunoke sneaks into the cabin and signals Jae-ja, pointing to an open window. Jae-ja alerts the matron, who pokes her head outside. Young-ro and Suho remain out of sight on the adjacent wall. Young-ro slips and almost plummets. Suho grabs her with one hand and clutches a wall pipe with his other. The noise has the matron striding to the window above them. Thankfully, its ornate sill shelters them from her gaze. Although, how the ANSP agents miss them is never explained. Suho struggles to pull Young-ro back up as the matron leaves with the others. The matron forces Man-dong to lock the cabin behind them and hand over his key. Back in the safety of the cabin, Suho tries to calm Young-ro's nerves with a blanket over her shoulders and a drink in her hands. It almost works, until she spots the huge bloodstain that bloomed over his bullet wound while he pulled her up. The matron hangs the cabin key in a cupboard in her room. She checks a secret compartment inside the cupboard, revealing a mysterious key. After rebandaging Suho's shoulder, Young-ro discovers that the cabin is locked. Fortunately, Man-dong and Jeong-min, who noticed that Young-ro wasn't tucked into her bed, are on their way. To ease Young-ro's panic, Suho makes a paper airplane. Young-ro makes one of her own, and the distraction becomes genuine enjoyment until they're interrupted by Man-dong picking the lock. Suho, his desire to leave renewed by this ordeal, asks Man-dong for help. Man-dong leads them to an emergency exit in the mechanical room that the students are unaware of. They pass Jae-ja sleepwalking through the hallways. For an instant, Man-dong sees her as the ghost of the late matron. They make it to the emergency exit without further incident, but there are ANSP agents stationed right outside. Suho stays trapped for now. The next day is filled with preparations for the dorm's upcoming open day, when the students are allowed to invite male guests into the dorm. With the ticketing system there to keep the ANSP agents out, Young-ro plans to use the day to sneak Suho out. Meanwhile, Gang-yu combs through Heedle boarding house where Suho was staying undercover. Gwang-tae is one of the more permanent residents there, and Gang-yu has him agree to keep tabs on Professor Han and report Suho if he resurfaces. Ra, Seung Sim, and Mi-hai have an appointment with a famous shaman. The shaman says that Chang-soo will have bad luck in the coming year, warning that he could be devoured by a tiger. The only way to avoid it is to sacrifice 13 young virgins to appease the snake god for an ancestral sin. As the shaman delivers his counsel, a snake that only Ra can see slithers over his shoulder and strikes at her. That night, the matron arrives back at the dorm, heavy with some unknown burden, as Hai Ryong, Seal Wei, and Jeong-min accuse Bunoke of theft. The matron pulls the trio into her office and asks for proof. Hai Ryong and Seal Wei cannot produce any. Jeong-min saw Bunoke wearing stolen items when they snuck Suho to the cabin, but cannot say as much. They are dismissed. Bunoke is next to be called into the matron's office where the matron calls out her jealousy towards the students. The matron tells Bunoke to remember her place and lets her off with a warning, so long as Bunoke returns everything she stole. Later, in her bedroom, the matron pulls out a folded photo from between the pages of a book. On the visible half, she smiles into the Needing a suit for Suho to blend in at the open day, Young-ro makes a call from a public phone booth. A housekeeper picks up and is delighted to hear from her. Young-ro arranges to drop by the following day when the mistress of the house will be out golfing. The mistress in question turns out to be Era, who overhears the phone call and cancels her game. On the third day of waiting for the North Korean delegates, Jae-rock and Soo-ryan, to negotiate with them again in Beijing, Chang-soo and Tae-il get testy. In an exchange of verbal blows, we learn that Tae-il was the previous director of the ANSP, a title he claimed when he killed his predecessor. By the time the North Koreans arrive, the two are even pulling each other's hair. Jae-rock calls off the entire deal. Afterwards, Soo-ryan contacts Comrade Ju. She instructs him to follow protocol if he cannot confirm that Suho is alive within 72 hours. On the day before the open house, Young-ro visits the sizable estate where Era and the housekeeper are waiting. Upon realizing that Era is home, Young-ro's smile drops and she marches down the hall without a word. Era approaches Young-ro on her way out, wanting to know why she's clutching one of her brother's suits. Young-ro is curt and Era berates her for having an attitude on her first visit, since she moved in with her maternal grandma 10 years ago. Era, Young-ro's stepmother, expects a better greeting and gets nasty. Young-ro smashes a framed portrait, earning a slap across the face from Era, and leaves. The day of the open house arrives. Suho and Young-ro meet outside the cabin, sharing a tender moment in their fancy attire. That's the last moment of peace they get before having to dodge the matron and Bunoke while trying to reach the main door. Outside, Gwangtae accosts Seol-wee, annoyed that Hai Ryong didn't invite him. The 207 girls deemed him a risk. He follows Seol-wee into the dorm, pretending to be her guest at the ticket station. Seol-wee distracts him before he can catch Young-ro and Suho, trying to get to the door again, and sends him to 207. Young-ro and Suho hide in the room where Hai Ryong's guest, a soldier named Byung-tae, is showing off his marksmanship in a shooting game. Byung-tae singles out Suho, pushing him to play the game with the intention of feeding his own ego. The targets are made even smaller, and Suho hits them all as the students applaud. Suho and Young-ro try to reach the main door again. Dodging the matron, Bunoke, and Jeong-ja, they're pulled into a dance train to the couple's dance room. In 207, Gwangtae realizes that Seol-wee's father owns Becca Brewery. He immediately makes her his new relationship target, pretending to have been coveting her since their group date. Seol-wee falls for his flattery without a second thought. Young-ro finds herself alone in the middle of the dance floor. She imagines herself dancing with Suho to the song she sang at the store where they were first alone. Hai Ryong snaps her out of it, and Suho grabs her hand to pull her away. Seeing this, Bunoke's face twists with anger. Finally making it out the main door, Young-ro and Suho rendezvous with Jeong-min, who has been waiting for them with a bike. She insists that they ride it together, so they don't raise the suspicion of the agents watching, and places Young-ro's arms around Suho. Bunoke fumes as she watches from behind a tree. As they ride along, Young-ro asks if Suho remembers the dorm phone number and her room number, so that they can contact each other again. He stays quiet and she loosens her hold on him. He still says nothing but grips the handlebars tighter. Seol-wee and Gwangtae have gone to the cafe by the university's main gate. From their window booth, Gwangtae sees Suho and Young-ro parting. He tips off the ANSP. Gang-yu, who's with the agents outside the campus, runs towards the front gate. After a lukewarm goodbye, Suho pedals halfway down the street. He stops and returns to Young-ro, who is still watching him from outside the Episode 4 of Snowdrop opens as Suho returns to Young-ro and gives her his pigeon necklace. In the overlooking cafe, Seol-wee realizes that Gwangtae called the ANSP and runs down to warn Young-ro. They send Suho on his way and act oblivious when Gang-yu appears. Gang-yu takes Gwangtae back to the ANSP headquarters to interrogate him, distrustful since Gwangtae's call came at the same time the agents were searching Mount Ogong, which borders the dorm, for the dead drop used by the North Korean spies. Even as the questioning gets physical, Gwangtae is determined to win Seol-wee over by maintaining that he simply made a mistake. Suho makes his way to Tigik hardware store at the front for his spy base, and learns of Jung-chil's suicide. Comrade Ju eyes Suho with suspicion, and we flash back to Soo-ryan giving Comrade Ju the order to kill Suho if he senses Suho's ideology wavering. Bunoke accuses Young-ro of flaunting Suho around the dorm to spite her. Returning to her desk, Bunoke racks her mind, but cannot remember letting Suho in through the ticketing station. When the record from the open house confirms this, Bunoke becomes sure that Suho was the spy in the cabin. In 207, after Young-ro recounts her confrontation with Bunoke, Jeong-min fears that Bunoke will catch onto them. They decide they need to hide the backpack full of Suho's bloodstained clothes. After the lights go out, Mandong makes a sneaky phone call to his son, who is so deep into a loan that he has now put his organs down as collateral. Young-ro sneaks through the hallways wearing the backpack, unaware that Bunoke is creeping along behind her. She finds Mandong as he's putting the phone away and asks him to store the backpack in his room. Bunoke watches them from the shadows. The following day at the ANSP headquarters, Hana comes to Gang Yu's office with an orchid plant for his desk. She tells Gang Yu that she only joined the ANSP to ask the man who proposed to her and then vanished, why he left her. Stone cold, Gang Yu says that he'll pretend he didn't hear her and starts to leave. Hana begins to ask him why he left her, but thinks better of it. Instead, she tells him that he cannot trust the agents on his team to stay loyal to him while he's disobeying direct orders. She will tail Professor Han herself. Bunoke calls the ANSP, asking if the reward for information on those harboring a spy is as high as the one for information on the spy themselves. The matron catches her celebrating that it is and cuts the call. Bunoke accuses the 207 girls of harboring Suho and takes the matron to Mandong's room to find the backpack. After uncovering it, the matron tells Mandong that he will soon be relieved of his position. The matron has Bunoke collect the backpack and bring it to her office. Once there, the matron stresses the danger the whole dorm will be subjected to if Bunoke tries to turn the 207 girls in. The matron says that Bunoke, the younger sister of a communist, would be an easy target for the ANSP to frame as a spy. The matron also mentions that Bunoke's sister jeopardized her family's position to the point where factories won't even hire Bunoke. Apparently the only reason that the matron did was because of her loyalty to her old teacher. Next to file into the matron's office are the 207 girls, already one strike away from getting kicked out. Young-ro takes the fall for the whole group, insisting on her knees that she hits Suho against the other girls' wishes. She's given until the following day to leave the dorm, and the rest of the girls are banned from receiving colors. At his base, Suho phones Jae-rock to say that his wound has healed, and he's ready for his mission. Their conversation reveals that Jae-rock is Suho's father, and that Suho's real name is Suhayok. Suho is also Jae-rock's last hope against an ousting. Ending the call, Jae-rock tells Su Ryan that Suho will complete the mission. She interjects with the news that she sent in a new team. Jae-rock insists that Suho will lead them and orders Su Ryan to stay out of further south-north negotiations. That night, over dinner with Tae-il and Chang-su, Jae-rock raises the price of his cooperation to $400 million. When Chang-su is unwilling to bleed Eamon Party dry, Tae-il reveals the ANSP's secret fund, which has been kept from both the president and the assembly, and doesn't require receipts. The next day at a church, Hana observes Professor Han going into the confessional. On the other side of the partition, Suho sits disguised as a priest and points his gun at Professor Han. Suho claims that Professor Han's son went willingly to Pyongyang with him 6 months ago, and he's got pictures of the son smiling in the city as proof. Suho also says that the CIA will soon discover the son's defection, and then it's only a matter of time before the ANSP. Leaving the church, Professor Han hails a taxi without realizing that its driver is Comrade Ju. Hana drives after them, but a ruckus on the road caused by the newly arrived North Korean spies halts her chase. Comrade Ju take Professor Han to their headquarters to read a letter penned by his son. Suho interprets the letter's vague wording, explaining that life in Pyongyang isn't easy for outsiders, and the professor's son has been trying to escape. According to Suho, the only way for the professor's son to escape is if the professor goes to the north to get him. The professor acquiesces and Suho leaves him blindfolded in their backroom to wait. Gathering his forces, Suho orders them to travel ahead with Professor Han to the port, where their boat will be waiting at 10 p.m. to take them home. Meanwhile, Gang Yu deciphers one of Suho's coded messages and learns that he had been hiding at the dorm. Jumping into action, he heads to the dorm and sends Hana to Mount Ogong. Parting from his team, Suho detours to Mount Ogong to retrieve the weapons and money hidden in their dead drop. After finding it, Suho turns back and sees a paper plane wedged into the fence bordering the dorm. He unfolds it to reveal a message from Young-ro expressing her disappointment at his lack of contact. In the dorm, a goodbye part for Young-ro is underway. All the girls do their best to keep the mood cheerful, until Seol-wi can't hold her tears in any longer. Mandong's wayward son approaches Suho by the fence, thinking Suho is a pervert spying on the girls. Suho spots the ANSP team led by Hana getting closer and flees. Mandong's son thinks that they're after him because of his dad and follows. The two end up going into the hut that shelters the secret passage to the mechanical room in the dorm. By the time Hana looks inside, they've already gone into the passageway and covered its entrance. Mandong's son starts getting aggressive and pulls out a knife. Suho pins him to the floor as Mandong himself comes up the passageway with a mallet. Sealwee waits outside the dorm. She watches with disappointment as Byung-tae arrives, having been called by Hai Ryong to help Young-ro move out. Her feelings turn to elation when Gwang-tae also arrives, just released from the ANSP headquarters, and sporting bruises across his face. He tells Sealwee that he endured torture without spilling her secrets, and she's moved. Gwang-tae notices Gang Yu pulling up to the dorm and bolts inside with Sealwee, discarding the tissue he was using to sell his sob story onto the bonnet of Byung-tae's car. Furious, Byung-tae chases after him. Gang Yu doesn't even spare them a second glance as he enters the dorm and begins another search. He eventually makes his way down to the mechanical room and is attacked by Suho. Suho incapacitates Gang Yu long enough to run into the foyer unhindered. Once there, Suho finds himself surrounded by ANSP agents with their guns ready. Young-ro comes down the stairs and is stunned to see Suho. Gang Yu rushes into the foyer to join his agents at the same time Hana's team does. Suho cages Young-ro against himself and raises his gun to her head, telling the agents to drop their guns. He fires a warning shot at the roof when they don't comply, and gives them until the count of 3 or Young-ro's life is forfeit. He counts all the way to 3 and a gunshot resounds. Episode 5 of Snowdrop exposes 2 North Korean spies within Hana's ranks. One is Comrade Ju. During the foyer standoff, Gang Yu spots one of them point his gun at Hana instead of Suho. Gang Yu throws himself in front of Hana and takes a bullet to the shoulder. Luckily, the shot has distracted Suho, stopping him from putting a bullet in Young-ro's head. The spies drop their cover and close ranks with Suho as a gunfight ensues. All the while, Suho keeps Young-ro trapped next to him. Comrade Ju is shot in the arm as the dorm becomes collateral damage. ANSP reinforcements burst in armed with riot shields, and form a line of defense on their side of the impasse, the side closest to the door. With ammunition running low, Suho shoots the cord holding up the chandelier above the agents to break their line. He then clips grenades to himself, and drags Young-ro out where the ANSP agents can see them. Suho pulls the pin out of the extra grenade in his hand, keeping his grip on the striker lever. Holding it up like a threat, he orders the agents to withdraw. Gang Yu complies, fearing for Young-ro. As the agents exit, Suho decides to keep Gang Yu hostage. Hana doesn't want to leave him behind, knowing that his bullet wound needs medical attention, and has to be dragged out by the other agents. Outside, Hana briefs Shifan on the situation. He stalls retaliation, worried that Chang-soo will be furious when he finds out that his agents continued hunting Tidong River 1. He calls Mi-hai, who is currently outfitting Era at her fashion boutique, for advice. Era listens in as Mi-hai takes this chaos as a good time to sacrifice 13 virgins. Mi-hai, now seeing the possibility that Chang-soo could become their president, tells Shifan to gain his favor. Back at the dorm, Byung-tae and Gwang-tae are blindfolded and tied together with a grenade between their shoulders. Suho sets about booby-trapping the entrances to the dorm, while Comrade Ju and the other spy, Comrade Lee, round up the students and the lone lunch lady in the second-floor cafeteria. Gang Yu is also left there with them, tied to a pole to make sure he can't try anything. The matron has been slipping through the dorm, unseen, and she tapes something up in her office. The girls are beginning to think she's abandoned them, when she strolls into the cafeteria voluntarily. They don't get a chance to be relieved, because Comrade Ju chooses 3 of them, one being Sealwee, to stand in front of the windows, so that the ANSP cannot open fire. Outside, the ANSP agents set up a base of operations and station riflemen around the campus perimeter. Safe in his office, Chang-soo verifies with Chai-rock that Tidong River 1's team has left the port of Incheon with Professor Han. Tail, also there, celebrates the victory as Chang-soo notes that the North will only receive full payment once they air a press conference in which Professor Han confirms that the opposition party's presidential campaign is funded by North Korea. Chief On arrives with news of the hostage situation, blaming it entirely on Gang Yu's search for Tidong River 1. Tail wants to clean up the mess with force before it can take attention away from Professor Han's press conference. Chang-soo is too worried for the student safety to agree. Dismissing Tail, Chang-soo calls Era, who sent a driver, to pick up Young-ro earlier that day. Era wails as she relays that the driver couldn't get near the dorm. Though, after they hang up, she wipes away her crocodile tears and saunters off. Chief On confirms that Young-ro is in the dorm. Cautious of the capital defense force being mobilized, which would be noticed by the media, Chang Su orders Chief On to free the students quickly, even if it requires lethal force. At the dorm, the girls have been made to lie in neat rows with their eyes closed. Bunoke breaks this rule to whisper words of blame into Young-ro's ear. Young-ro notices Gang Yu's blood dripping onto the floor and gingerly asks to patch him up. She sits up, insisting that she needs to stop the bleeding even as the spies point their guns at her. Suho leads Man Dong and his son into the cafeteria as Comrade Ju is about to strike Young-ro's head with the back of his gun. Suho calmly stops the violence and deems the need for first aid harmless, adding that Comrade Ju needs it too. He lets Young-ro lead him to the infirmary to gather supplies. She avoids his eyes, and they stay silent the whole. At the top of the main staircase on the way back, Suho grabs Young-ro to stop her from stepping on the tripwires he set up. She breaks the silence, asking if he's really a spy, and despairing that she helped him. He only tells her to stop being nosy if she wants to stay alive. She leaves the conversation, and him, right there. Chang Su calls Jai Rock again to ask if he's sure that Tidong River 1 left the port with Professor Han. Jai Rock is angered by yet another mishap from the ANSP, and declares that their deal will be off if any of his spies are hurt. Su Ryan catches the end of the conversation, satisfied with the thought of Suho's demise. Chang Su heads to the dorm. Tail, who has been occupying himself with Chungya, gets confirmation that Tidong River 1 is responsible for the Hosa situation. Chungya mulls over this information while Tail is focused on the call and tries to convince him to stay when he rushes to dress and make for the dorm. Meanwhile, Young-ro tends to Gang Yu and swears that she didn't know Suho was a spy. Gang Yu comforts her while signaling to the tweezers she brought with her. They make a show of his pain, and she helps him slip the tweezers into his sleeve without raising suspicion. Chief On is on his way to the dorm when Chang Su revokes his order to kill the spies. At the base, Chief On arranges for a field telephone to be set up outside the dorm's main entrance. Aware that a negotiation is their best chance at escaping, Suho uses Hai Ryong as a hostage to motivate Guang Tae to collect the field phone in his stead. Guang Tae reaches the field phone as Hana sees Suho through the glass windows. She fires a shot at him, only missing because the agent Chang Su tasked with keeping the rest of the ANSP out of Operation Phoenix tackles her down. Comrade Ju opens fire, but Chief On stays his agents. Suho uses the commotion to get Guang Tae and the field phone inside. Chang Su arrives to the sound of gunfire and banishes Hana to their headquarters. She's dragged away for a second time. Tail reaches the base shortly after. In the cafeteria, Gang Yu hacks through the ropes at his wrists with the tweezers. Young-ro pretends to have stomach pains, distracting Comrade Lee, while Gang Yu slips out from under the ropes keeping him against the pole. He looms behind Comrade Lee, tweezers raised. Man Dong notices Comrade Ju returning with Hai Ryong, Byung Tae, and Guang Tae in tow. He whines about back pain to alert Gang Yu, who slithers back into his bonds. Comrade Ju insists on killing a hostage as Chang Su contacts Suho through the field phone. Chang Su recites the coordinates of the spy team's planned rendezvous point and names Jai Rock as their leader to gain Suho's trust. He then instructs the team to escape through the mechanical room's secret passageway. Suho uses Young-ro's radio to confirm whether Chang Su can be trusted. He tunes into the channel as instructions from the north are sent through. It plays the song that signals a change of plans, and a coded message tells him to cooperate with the south. At the Marine base where Yong-yu is stationed as an administrative clerk, he asks to fill in on that night's Coast Guard patrol. The fishing boat that Professor Han and the spies are on idles at the rendezvous coordinates when the Coast Guard boat that Yong-yu is on sights them. Professor Han loses his nerve and screams for help. One of the spies shoots him in the chest and opens fire on the Coast Guard. Chang Su gets a call the Coast Guard sunk the spy ship. Tail says that Plan B is their only option now. Suho and his spies emerge from the secret passageway. They only make it a few paces before gas and bullets are hurled their way. Comrade Lee is shot in the leg. The bonus clip takes us back to the matron while the girls were being rounded up. She uses her hidden key to open a secret door in the wall and slip. Episode 6 of Snowdrop starts with Tail sanctioning Plan B, which entails eliminating all the North Korean spies. Suho orders his men back into the passageway and rearms the booby trap across its entrance. The surrounding ANSP agents are about to barge in when Chang Su terminates the operation. Gang Yu had been using the chaos to lead the hostages out of the cafeteria, but they're intercepted by Comrade Ju's return. Gang Yu leaps forward, pushing Comrade Ju's gun upwards as he fires through his rounds. The bullets shatter a chandelier, and the broken glass cuts Young-ro's hand. Gang Yu pins Comrade Ju to the floor and almost stabs him with the tweezers when Suho returns and shoots them right out of Gang Yu's grip. Comrade Ju decides that it's time to execute Gang Yu. His first attempt is foiled by the cafeteria lady's hysterics, and his second by his own empty magazine. He reloads and takes aim, but this time Suho steps in, threatening to cut Comrade Ju loose if he keeps up the volatile behavior. Comrade Ju sends the hostages back to the cafeteria with an annoyed holler. As they depart, Suho spots the blood dripping down Young-ro's hand. At the ANSP base, Chang-Su gets confirmation that Professor Han and all the spies that were on the ship with him are dead. On the Coast Guard side, Young-Yu is among 4 injured men. Chang-Su delays notifying their families, inadvertently keeping himself in the dark. Chang-Su wants to tell the press that the ANSP tried to rescue Professor Han from a North Korean abduction. Tail thinks that they can still use this as an opportunity to defame the opposition party and keep their higher-ups off their backs, and wants to spin the story that Professor Han died while defecting to the north. Chief An follows Tail's instruction. Meanwhile, Seung Sim and Mi-hai have invited themselves over to Era's house. Smug with the possibility that 13 virgins will die soon, Era rubs Chang-Su's status as a senior graduate of the military academy in Seung Sim's face. Seung Sim drops all pretenses and grabs Era by her hair, physically and verbally asserting her higher family status. Back in the cafeteria, Suho forces Young-ro to grab the first aid kit and follow him to the dorm room where Comrade Lee was deposited after being shot. Suho makes her wait while he tends to Comrade Lee, and then leads her to some hallway chairs. He sits her down and takes her hand to disinfect it. She snatches it right back with disgust in her eyes. Still, he persists and treats her wound. Suho reveals that tomorrow morning he'll be demanding a doctor for Comrade Lee, and he plans to free Young-ro when the ANSP requests for hostages to be released in exchange. With that, he intends to call it even between them and end their connection. Young-ro, dismissed, stomps back to the cafeteria. The other students break into accusatory whispers at the sight of her bandaged hand, and she segregates herself behind a pole. Chang-Su calls Suho again and informs him of his team's demise on the sea. Suho warns that, if he sees no way out of this for his remaining men, they'll kill themselves and the hostage. As night falls, Bunoke tears up over a flashback to her father lying in a hospital bed. In the flashback, she tucks in her mother, asleep on the seat next to him, and shoves an envelope under her pillow. In North Korea, Soo-ryan tells Jae-rock to prepare himself for the party's judgment, since Suho's mission is looking like a failure that has cost them $300 million. Comrade Ju has made the same assessment and argues that the only way to defend their leader's honor is to kill all the hostages and blow themselves up. Suho keeps his father's reliance on him in mind and says that their deaths would be for nothing. Comrade Ju takes this as an assault on their ideology and becomes aggressive, repeating Soo-ryan's secret order while raising his gun. Suho doesn't give him the chance to fix his aim, shooting him in the chest without hesitation. Comrade Ju falls to the floor, coughing up blood, saved by his bulletproof vest. Suho looms over him, asking why Comrade Ju disobeyed his orders and followed him to Mount Ogong in the first place. When Comrade Ju remains silent, Suho presses down on his bruised chest with the threat that the next shot will be aimed at his head. Suho calls Chang-Su and gives him 20 minutes to get a doctor to the dorm, or he'll start executing hostages. With even the ANSP's doctor too far away, Tail calls Chungya to the dorm. Chief An also calls Han-na back with the intention of sending her in with Chungya to recover Young-ro. Upon her arrival, Tail explains the situation to Chungya. She's uninterested until he mentions Young-ro. His plan is to have her kill Comrade Lee and Comrade Ju with lethal injections under the guise of administering painkillers. With the dorm almost completely wiretapped, Chungya will then say a code phrase, and the ANSP SWAT team will break in to execute Suho. Chungya agrees, but will only drug the spies with sleep inducers. In the matron's office, Suho has the matron compile the profiles of all the students taken hostage. The matron singles out the more unreleased students for release. Returning to the cafeteria, Suho announces that he'll be releasing a group of hostages. He also lays out a rule. Those who are cooperative will be picked for future exchanges, and those who disobey him won't make it out. The 207 girls are all among the first batch of students called by the matron. The other students start protesting that Young-ro and her friends are receiving special treatment. Bunoke shrieks over the unfairness of students being the only ones eligible for release, and calls for a random draw. Suho grabs the last piece of paper from the matron's hand and gives it to Bunoke. It's her resume. We flash back to the matron reasoning that Bunoke is the sole carer for her sick parents and should be released. Suho snatches Bunoke's resume back and rips it up. She won't be going anywhere. He reiterates his earlier rule while giving Young-ro, who tried to give up her spot and stay behind, a stony glare. Gang-yu, blindfolded and tied to a chair in a separate dorm room, signals the ANSP agents through a series of knocks. They learn that the hostages are in the cafeteria, and Gang-yu is in room 203. After Suho agrees to let Han-na into the dorm with Chung-ye to verify the hostages' safety, Comrade Ju disarms the main door, and they make their way inside. Comrade Ju searches Chung-ye's medical kit, though he doesn't find the gun she stowed in a hidden compartment for Han-na to sneak to Gang-yu. Comrade Lee's condition is worsening, and he's being kept in an improvised sick room sectioned off at the back of the cafeteria. Suho is with him when Chung-ye steps inside. Recognition flashes in both of their eyes, but neither acknowledges it. Outside the partition, Han-na observes Young-ro sitting with the other injured students waiting to be treated. She requests for the group to be released first. Suho picks 6 other students at random instead. Another student dissolves into a panic attack, and the matron asks for her release. Hearing this, the other hostages also start begging until Suho loses his temper and threatens to kill them. Young-ro snaps, screaming out pleas for Suho to release everyone else. She pushes down the gun he levels at her head, and whispers her identity as the daughter of the ANSP's director to him. Shock passes over Suho's expression before it turns. Episode 7 of Snowdrop picks up at Young-ro's confession, which she whispers too low for Chang-soo to hear over the radio. It doesn't give her the upper hand she'd hoped for, and Suho won't release her or allow another student to take her place now. He makes it clear that she's nothing more than a human shield, and has her stand in front of one of the windows. Suho takes the matron aside for a conversation. Chang-soo and Taeil, listening in, learn that Suho knows Young-ro's identity, and also discover that she hid him in the dorm. Getting nowhere with Suho, the matron excuses herself to the bathroom. She sneaks to the furthest stall as Comrade Ju stands guard outside and unstraps a radio, the thing she had been taping up in her office from around her thigh. The radio squeals as she turns it on, and she's forced to return it to its place under her dress when Comrade Ju comes in to investigate. Chung-ye shows her true allegiances when Suho returns to Comrade Lee's side behind the partition. She silently shows him a note scrawled across her forearm, explaining that the whole building is being wiretapped, and a SWAT team is poised to break into the dorm. Suho keeps that in mind as he allows Gang-yu to receive treatment, facing the wire above them, while harping on about maintaining mutual trust. Outside, Chief-on whines about the matron not having told him that Young-ro was harboring a spy, even after being subject to water and electric torture. Chang-soo and Taeil join him at the vantage point from which Young-ro is visible in the window. She manages a sad smile for her father. Suho pays Gang-yu a visit mostly so that Chang-soo can hear him warn that the dorm is rigged with C4 explosives, from the mechanical room to the 3rd floor. Suho waves the remote detonator that he'll use to blow them all up if anything else goes askew. Taeil swoops in to save the day with his secret plan. We flash back to him informing Han-na about Chung-ye's mission to put the injured spies to sleep. He also instructed Han-na to disarm the booby trap securing the secret passageway, so that the SWAT team can dispatch Suho. Gang-yu is brought back to the cafeteria for treatment. Han-na embraces him, exaggerating the gesture to whisper the plan in his ear, and let him know about the gun in Chung-ye's kit. Suho finally releases the first group of hostages. Han-na guides them out of the dorm to the waiting agents before returning to the captives left behind. A-ra arrives at the ANSP base, playing the perfect wife with packed lunch for the agents. Breaking news interrupts their meal. The press reports that Professor Han was killed during an attempted abduction by the North. A tape he gave to a priest with the recording of his time in Suho's car provides definitive evidence, and the opposition party blames the current administration. The president calls Chang-soo and orders him to report back with a solution to this problem by 5 p.m. A-ra steps in, suggesting that they publicize the Hosu hostage situation and drag it out over the next 10 days until the presidential election to drown out any news pertaining to Professor Han. Taeil chimes in, confident that the North can be persuaded to control their spies in exchange for the $300 million. Soo-ryan is needling Jae-rock in his office when Chang-soo's call comes through. Chang-soo lays out the press fiasco and asks for permission to kill all 3 of the North Korean spies in exchange for the $300 million. Jae-rock rejects the offer and calls for his secretary, Yin-hwa, who he tells to send a message to the spies to come back alive. Yin-hwa informs Jae-rock that he's needed in the secretary's office. After Jae-rock follows her out, Ryan calls Chang-soo back and appoints herself the head of their negotiations. She gives Chang-soo permission to kill the spies. Yinhua listens from the door and relays the call to Jae-rock, who breaks into a satisfied chuckle. In the dorm, Chung-ye finishes stitching Gang Mu up. Comrade Ju eyes her as she almost lifts the hidden compartment in her medical kit. He stops her from packing up and rifles through it, finding the gun. Comrade Ju unleashes his temper on her, repeatedly hitting her with his gun, until music blasts through the cafeteria and everyone stills. Suho has just walked in with Young-ro's radio, satisfied that he's deafened the ANSP agents. Comrade Ju drags Chung-ye, face covered in blood, but Suho tries to talk Comrade Ju down, while Gang Mu uses the distraction to pocket Chung-ye's scalpel. Suho's attempts fail, and Comrade Ju flings Young-ro away from the window. He replaces Young-ro with Chung-ye, and points his gun at her in clear view of the snipers outside the campus. The snipers report the situation back to base, and Taeil, distraught, has Chifon locate Chung-ye. Joining the snipers, he tries to get them to kill Comrade Ju, but Chung-ye is in the way. Han-not turns the radio off as Suho tries to wrestle the gun from Comrade Ju's grip. The gun that Chung-ye snuck in falls to the ground in the struggle, and gets kicked right to Young-ro's feet. She picks it up and aims it at Comrade Ju, who then pulls Chung-ye to himself like a shield. Suho tries to talk Young-ro into dropping the gun, and Gang Mu tries to convince the spies not to let things spiral while they have the advantage. Comrade Ju finally lowers his gun, and an ANSP sniper takes a shot, completely missing everyone and making things worse. Comrade Ju starts firing at the snipers. Suho knocks the gun out of Young-ro's hand and pushes her to the floor, shielding her with his own body. The paper plane she made falls out of his jacket and lands beside her before he gets up, and stops Comrade Ju from wasting more bullets. Suho snatches the note back from Young-ro, scrunching it in his fist before Comrade Ju or Chung-ye can see anything further. Amid all the fuss, Han-na has made a break for the mechanical room. Suho notices her absence and follows. He corners her at the entrance to the secret passageway, but she has already disarmed it. She threatens him with the SWAT team's presence, and he tells her to go out and disband them, or he'll blow up the building with Gang Mu in it. Han-na gets outside and calls for the SWAT team, disobeying him. They later outside the entrance. Taeil cancelled his grand scheme after their new deal with the North. Suho is angry about yet another plot to kill him coming to light, and is unwilling to listen to Chang-soo's demand that he verifies his new instructions from the North. He now plans to kill a student within the next 10 minutes. Suho agrees to Comrade Ju's suggestion that they choose Young-ro for execution, and then pulls the wire out of the wall next to them. Now that they can't be overheard, he explains that Young-ro is their lifeline. He then sets about pulling out every wire around the dorm. Comrade Ju hauls Chung-ye out of the cafeteria to meet Suho in a separate room. To Comrade Ju's surprise, Suho unties her and stands to attention, reporting that he's removed the wires. Chung-ye reveals that she provoked Comrade Ju on purpose to sell her act, and introduces herself as Moran Hil-won, a renowned North Korean spy, sent to help them get home. The field phone rings and Chung-ye silently listens to Chang-soo explain that he's made a new deal to send the spies home in 10 days, if they don't kill any hostages. They hang up without a word, and Chung-ye allows Suho to confirm their instructions using the radio. Suho starts to question whether the South can be trusted, and Chung-ye shuts him down for doubting party instructions. Satisfied that the spies have accepted their new instructions, Chang-soo and Taeil make their way to meet with the president. Chang-soo's secretary gets a call about Young-yu, and he turns his car around. As darkness falls over the dorm, Suho drags Young-ro to a separate room to eat, which doesn't escape Chung-ye or Bunok's notice. Young-ro asks why he has her paper plane and begins to dread that he came back to the dorm because of it. He doesn't get time to confirm or deny it, because the reporter on the TV in the room announces that Young-yu is. Episode 8 of Snowdrop begins with Chang-soo rushing to Young-yu's hospital bedside. Young-yu passes the promise he made at his mother's grave to protect Young-ro on to Chang-soo before flatlining. That night at the dorm, Gang Mu cuts through his bonds with Chung-ye's scalpel, and stumbles upon the matron's hidden door to find a room full of surveillance equipment. The matron herself sneaks to the bathroom to use her radio, identifying herself as Ryan, while trying to contact someone she calls VIP. We jump to Young-ro finding out about Young-yu's death. Suho stops her from running down the booby-trapped stairway in her grief. Grief that turns to anger, which has her striking Suho, blaming him until she passes out from the shock. Hearing the commotion, the matron hides her radio in a sanitary bin in the bathroom, and comes to check on Young-ro. Comrade Ju escorts her back to the cafeteria. In the surveillance room, Gang Yu discovers transcripts of conversations from around the dorm. He listens in on Suho ordering Comrade Ju to set up a bomb in the cafeteria, in case the ANSP decides to retaliate for Young Yu's death. Not wanting to ruffle any feathers, Gang Yu rushes back to 203 and slips the key to the hidden door in his boot. He's shimmying back into the ropes when Suho bursts in, gun raised. Suho confiscates the scalpel and transfers Gang Yu back to the cafeteria. Young Ro has been taken to 202, and Chung Yu has given her a sedative. When Suho checks on her, Chung Yu warns him not to let his personal feelings ruin their mission. Suho insists that he's never had any. After Suho has left, Young Ro wakes up in a panic. While calming Young Ro down, Chung Yu takes notice of Suho's necklace, and has a flashback to Suho, refusing to sell it to her, and calling it more precious than his own life. Not content to stay put, Young Ro finds Suho, and begs him to let her go to her brother's funeral. Suho drags her back to 202, but sees Chung Yu there and thinks better of it. Back to the cafeteria Young Ro goes. Young Yu's death leaves Chang Su drowning too far in his sorrow to give much thought to how it has worked in his favor. With a son dead on the front lines and a daughter taken hostage, Park Mutiel, Emin Party's #1, acknowledges Chang Su's patriotism. It doesn't escape Taeil that Mutiel will align with Chang Su to garner sympathy votes in the election. Back at the dorm, Suho finds the scarf Young Yu gave Young Ro when he last visited her. Suho offers it to Young Ro as a comfort. Breakfast is served in the cafeteria as morning arrives. Gang Yu, Nandong, and Bunoke end up eating together in the kitchen. It's the perfect opportunity for some subtle digging. Bunoke, always ready to gossip, reveals that once a month the matron leaves at dawn and returns, exhausted, just before roll call. Nandong also has a story, and we flash back to the previous matron, Ms. Song, in her 4th-floor cabin. She tells her superior over the phone that hiring the woman proposed to be her replacement would be an insult to her, as well as a threat to dorm safety. She throws down the file of the woman in question, the current matron who apparently has a cousin in Munich. Ms. Song ends the call while doubling over in pain. According to Mandong, she killed herself that same night. At the ANSP headquarters, Han Na learns that Chief On will announce that there are 7 spies in the dorm in his upcoming press conference. She's furious that he would risk putting the hostages in more danger, but he just vaguely alludes to the agreement happening behind her back. As the conference begins, Han Na approaches an arrogant-looking reporter sitting at the back of the hall and offers him a scoop. Watching Chief On exaggerate their situation on TV, Suho's doubts about the ANSP worsen. Chung Yu advises him to release half the hostages, so that word about the true number of spies is leaked. Suho notifies Taeil, who is directing the dorm operation, while Chang Su grieves and demands supplies to be delivered by Han Na, in exchange for the hostages. Bunoke finds the dead drop goods under the stove in the kitchen. Sang Beam comes in and stuffs wads of the cash into his jacket along with a gun. Comrade Ju catches Sang Beam red-handed and takes back the money before shoving him back to the cafeteria. Sang Beam raises his stolen gun, clicking the safety off. Lacking experience, Sang Beam doesn't realize it's not loaded until he pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. Nandong shields Sang Beam with his own body, as Comrade Ju delivers blow after blow. Gang Yu goads Comrade Ju to take the attention of them, and almost gets himself shot. Suho appears just in time to defuse the situation, and has Comrade Ju relocate Gang Yu, Nandong, and Sang Beam to the dorm chapel. Hearing this, the matron gives Nandong a meaningful look. Once alone in the chapel, Gang Yu makes short work of his ropes and unties the other 2 men. Nandong slides a mirror aside to reveal another secret passageway, which also leads to the secret exit on Mount Ogong. Gang Yu uses it to leave the dorm. He finds a SWAT team idling outside and calls for them to follow him in. Instead, they fire warning shots at his feet and herd him back in on Taeil's order. Gang Yu dodges Suho and Comrade Ju. They came running at the sound of gunfire, and locks himself in the surveillance room. Checking what was recorded since he left, Gang Yu catches up on the South-North agreement and discovers that Chung Yu is a North Korean spy. Suho contacts Taeil through the field phone, wanting to know about the gunshots. He isn't reassured to hear that Taeil sent his own agent back into the dorm to silence any fuss. Finally seeing all the pieces in the puzzle, Gang Yu believes that everyone in the dorm is in danger. He leaves the surveillance room and tries to appeal to Suho's reason, explaining that Emin Party is likely to kill everyone in the dorm to utilize the public's anger for the election. Suho doesn't bite, confident in his party's plans. Gang Yu, Nandong, and Sang Beam are hauled back to the cafeteria. Young Ro discreetly asks Gang Yu how she can help them escape. He tells her to sit tight, warning her about the detonator in Suho's back pocket. Young-ro asks to go to the bathroom and ends up in another dorm room with Suho rewrapping her bandages. The moment rewinds them back to the sincerity they used to share, and Suho apologizes for Young-yu and assures Young-ro that he wants to leave in 9 days without hurting anyone else. He also admits that he wants to release her, though he cannot. When Suho starts to leave, Young-ro embraces him from behind, telling him not to go. He turns her around and hugs her properly. Guard down, he's unprepared when Young-ro snatches the detonator from his pocket and jumps. Episode 9 of Snowdrop starts with Young-ro holding up the detonator as evidence against Suho's assurances that he plans to leave quietly. Young-ro doesn't bite the remorse in Suho's words or expression, and makes a break for the chapel. Suho gives chase before yanking the detonator from Young-ro's grasp and pinning her to a wall by her wrists. Imploring her to believe him when he says that he doesn't want to cause her more suffering, he also confesses that not being able to protect her is driving him crazy. Neither of them spots Chungya, who had been scoping out the chapel's secret passageway with Comrade Ju, watching from the doorway. In the cafeteria, Gang Yu rallies the girls to help him ask the matron if she's also a spy plant. It earns him the full force of her anger. Hers isn't the only anger directed at him. Suho returns and drags Gang Yu to another dorm room before punching him square in the face. Gang Yu explains that he didn't instigate Young-ro's antics. Suho, barely placated, broaches Gang Yu's theory again. Gang Yu rules out the chance that the ANSP will accept Suho's surrender, when even the lives of their own citizens are forfeit in their power grabs. He asks if Suho thinks that the North will value their spies' lives more than the money the South is likely dangling before them. More willing to cooperate now, Suho tells Gang Yu to bring him indisputable proof through Han-na. Outside, Chief On regards reporter Gal. The reporter Han-na tipped off, with disgust before addressing the gathered press. He delivers news that supplies are being sent in with the hope that hostages will be released in return. Inside the ANSP base, the truth is clear. Tail instructs Suho to make it look like the spies are prolonging the situation, despite the ANSP's best efforts. The gist: no hostages are to be released. Chungya confiscates the detonator and threatens to kill Suho herself if he doesn't require some revolutionary spirit. She also orders the release of 30 hostages to spite Tail's treatment of their spies. Han-na is sent in with the supplies, and Suho takes her to Gang Yu under the pretext of anger at how they last parted. Meanwhile, reporter Gal impersonates a food delivery driver covering his face to avoid suspicion, and secretly records the inside of the ANSP base. Gang Yu catches Han-na up on the situation, and Suho tells her to bring him proof by the next day when he will demand more supplies. Gang Yu requests a minute alone with Han-na, calling Suho comrade and Han-na his fiancé in the same breath to earn some sympathy. Suho is shaken enough by his use of the term to kick them both out of the room almost immediately. At Mihai's boutique, Seong-sim counts the number of virgins in the dorm. Mihai balks at her inclusion of Chungya, prompting Seong-sim to recount the story of a man that saved Chungya when she fell while hiking through snowy mountains. According to Seong-sim, they spent the night in a cave together before parting ways, and Chungya has been pining for him ever since. A flashback to the incident shows us what appears to be the same night Chungya asked Suho to sell her his necklace. As Han-na guides 30 students out of the dorm, Comrade Ju escorts Bunoke to the bathroom. She pokes her head back out to observe him rustling through the dead drop goods, which are now hidden in the opposite room. While Byung-tae and Gwang-tae unwittingly distract Comrade Lee, Young-ro sneaks to Gang Yu's side and asks why Suho will only leave in 9 days. Gang Yu swears her to secrecy and tells her everything. Sang-beom sneaks into the bathroom and accosts Bunoke, trying to get her to reveal the location of the dead drop goods. She screams and he hits her, but the sound gets Comrade Ju's attention. Coming to investigate, Comrade Ju hears Bunoke explain her family situation while condemning Sang-beom. Sang-beom rages and Comrade Ju steps in, pulling him off Bunoke and beating him, only stopping when he sees the distress on Bunoke's face. Comrade Ju drags Sang-beom away, while Bunoke cleans herself up and finds the matron's radio, while looking for her fallen hair clip. Chief On gives orders for the released hostages to be taken to the ANSP's interrogation rooms. Reporter Gal spots the cars full of girls and tails them. Han-na gets to work on securing evidence, bugging the ANSP base. As Gwang-tae gives an impromptu marriage proposal to Seal-wei, Young-ro slides up to Gang Yu again, and asks him to use her to escape. Taking her up on the offer, he lets her know that Chungya is a spy. Emin Party's president calls Tail at the ANSP base. Tail pretends that the hostages were released on his order to maintain an illusion of control. Tail makes his own call to Suho to vent his anger, making mention of the money Gang Yu. Having heard that Gang Yu was shot at by their own team, Chang Su returns to the base. Tail doesn't share Chang Su's concern that Gang Yu will have figured out their scheme and won't be easily silenced. Why? Tail gives a voice to Gang Yu's fears and suggests rescuing Young-ro before killing everyone else in the dorm. Han-na listens to Tail's nefarious plan from her car, while reporter Gal videos the students, now blindfolded, being filed into the ANSP headquarters. Chief An wants his agents to make them sign NDAs, and then scare them to ensure their silence. Finally gaining a sense of urgency, Suho takes Gang Yu to a dorm room and asks for the secret frequency Gang Yu uses to contact Han-na. She's sharing her findings with reporter Gal in her car when Gang Yu's voice comes through the radio. She confirms that she has collected proof, but Chief An, who found her bug, arrives with an entourage of agents. Han-na kicks reporter Gal's videotape under her car seat before she's dragged away. Gang Yu listens to her shouts, livid. He gets into a tussle with Suho, who keeps trying to cling to his faith in the north. That night, the matron reapproaches Gang Yu. Convinced that she isn't a spy, Gang Yu comes to another conclusion. She works for the ANSP. She doesn't dispute it, but she's under no illusions either. She considers them evil tyrants, and she has never ratted out her students. Gang Yu suggests that they save those students together and holds out her hidden key. At the ANSP headquarters, reporter Gal denies planting Han-na's bug, and we hear his screams as his torture session begins. Han-na is locked away in his cell, isolated. Back in the cafeteria, the matron and Gang Yu's plan begins. Once the hostages have gone to sleep, Young-ro sneaks across the room and feigns sleep near the matron. The matron nods at Jeong-ja, who then asks to go to the bathroom. None of the spies are inclined to allow it until Chung-ya takes pity on her and asks to go too. As Chung-ya leaves with a group of students, the matron slips her key into Young-ro's hand. Gang Yu also uses the opportunity to tell Byung-tae that they'll be escaping tomorrow, and he'll be charged with handling Comrade Ju. The next day, Suho comes into the cafeteria to find the matron leading the hostages through an aerobic session. He forces them to cease, and the matron complains about their conditions. The students join in, pleading to be allowed to wash up. Suho caves, letting them go in groups of 10 with the condition that they don't go above the second floor. Young-ro quickly slips into the first group. Bunoke is also among them, and she appeals to Comrade Ju to let her get her toothbrush from her basement level room. He's sympathetic enough to escort her. In 207, while the other girls savor their own beds, Young-ro frantically retrieves her digital watch. She heads down to the basement and throws it through the lock gate ceiling off the mechanical room. While Young-ro hides from their view, Bunoke thanks Comrade Ju for saving her from Sang-beom, glad to have someone take her side for once. While Comrade Ju waits for Bunoke to get her things, Young-ro's watch starts beeping. When he goes down to investigate, Young-ro sneaks upstairs and locks herself in the surveillance room. Comrade Ju marches the girls back to the cafeteria, convinced that Young-ro has escaped via the mechanical room. He and Suho leave to search for her. With them out of the way, Gang Yu makes short work of strangling Comrade Lee until he falls unconscious. Byung-tae swipes the spy's gun, and the matron gathers the hostages and leads them to the main doors using the chapel's secret passageway. Chung-ya hears them shuffling past the bathroom. Before she can act, Gang Yu comes in and pretends that the ANSP has come for her and Young-ro. He leads Chung-ya to their rendezvous point in the 4th floor cabin and locks her inside. Bunoke separates from the other hostages to pillage the dead drop goods. Sang-beom does the same. Byung-tae and Gwang-tae lock off the mechanical room with Comrade Ju, looking for Young-ro, still inside. Suho combs the matron's office. He finds no trace of Young-ro until she accidentally knocks over a stack of tapes, and he follows the noise to the hidden door. Unable to open it, he starts calling for her, desperate to get to her before Comrade Ju does. Young-ro stays quiet. Suho starts using the series of knocks Young-ro devised when she was hiding him, rattling her. Gang Yu enters the office and brawls with Suho. Suho gains the upper hand, landing punch after punch, until he's distracted by Young-ro coming up behind him, with an ornament raised to swing at him in her shaky grip. Gang Yu uses the distraction to pin Suho down and pull out a gun. He keeps Suho under his watch as they join the hostages at the main door. Byung-tae takes over while Gang Yu disarms the booby traps. Freedom is within reach, and Suho is terrified as he and Young-ro lock eyes. Chung-ya, not so easily detained, appears with the detonator in hand. Gwang-tae doesn't heed her instruction to stay put and pushes the door ajar. She makes good on her threat to blow up the dorm, and we end with a bang. Snowdrop. Episode 10. Sangbeom spots Chungya from second floor. He is furious to grab Bun Ok's collar, asking her for going to get the money bag with him. Suho takes a look at Young-ro. Jaeok-chan goes to second floor and catches Sangbeom. Bun Ok has to follow Jaeok-chan. Suho worries about Young-chil. He goes to the cafeteria. Chungya asks the hostages who planned the escape. Seung-hee stands up and claims that she was the planner. But Young-ro points out that she was actually the planner. Chungya walks to Young-ro and puts a gun to her head. Seung-hee hugs Young-ro to protect her. Suho finds Young-chil at the cafeteria and wakes him up. But Young-chil cannot hear what Suho said. Suho carries Young-chil to the room and puts him in the bed. Suho returns to the cafeteria with Jaeok-chan. He tells him to set the bombs in the rooms. But Jaeok-chan points out that the bag which contains bombs is missing. Suho tells Jaeok-chan to go to look for the bag because he believed that Jaeok-chan knows who took the bag away. The sniper spots Suho and asks for the permission to kill Suho. But the captain doesn't want him to do that. Chang-soo watches the TV and learns that the bomb exploded at the cafeteria. He calls Taeil and asks him to find a way to save the hostages. Taeil comforts Chang-soo that it was just a mistake. Chang-soo yells at Taeil that he doesn't want to lose his daughter when he's going to bury his son. Jaeok-chan beats Sangbeom with his gun. Sangbeom cries to confess that the one who hid the bag was Bun Ok. But Bun Ok denies it. Chungya grabs Sangbeom's hair and puts the gun to his head. Bun Ok tells Chungya that she saw Sangbeom hiding the bag in the restroom. Suho joins Chungya and reports to her that Young-chil was hurt. So she goes to see Young-chil. Suho tells the hostages that they're going to die with them after they tries to run away. Chang-soo calls Suho and tells him to take Young-ro to the cafeteria. Chang-soo hangs up and tells the follower to get the sniper to take Suho's life once he sees him. Chungya is against to let Suho take Young-ro to the cafeteria. Because they shouldn't take duty for Gang-mu's mistake. Suho points out that Chang-soo is their friends according to the contract. Jaeok-chan beats Gwang-tae and Byung-tae because the two locked him in the basement. Gwang-tae hugs Jaeok-chan's leg and asks for his mercy. He cries to tell him that Gang-yu told him to lock him up. But Jaeok-chan grabs Gwang-tae's hair and slaps him. Young-ro stops Jaeok-chan before he hurts Byung-tae. But he beats Byung-tae with his gun. He walks to Young-ro and grabs her collar. Suho stops Jaeok-chan and takes Young-ro away. Chungya tells Jaeok-chan to shoot Young-ro if the girl leaks her identity. Suho drags Young-ro and tells her that her father wants to see her. She asks him for letting her talk with Chang-soo. But he rejects it. She is furious to throw away his necklace. He takes her to the cafeteria and lets her show up. Chang-soo spots Young-ro with the binoculars. She cries to tell him to bury Young-yu well. Suho runs to take Young-ro away before Jaeok-chan shoots. Snowdrop. Episode 11. Suho tells Young-ro to stay in the basement. He leaves with Gang-yu. She's obedient because her hero came back. Bun Ok gets the snacks from Hai Ryong's room. She gives one of the snacks to Jaeok-chan. Young-chil blames Bun Ok for not giving snacks to Chungya and Suho. Bun Ok comforts Young-chil there are so many snacks for the two. He takes away the snack from Seol-wi. Nandong is going to pass out because of hypoglycemia when Bun Ok is enjoying the food. Sangbeom thinks Bun Ok is heartless. She gets Jeong-ja to give the food to Mandong. Gwang-tae flatters Bun Ok and tells her to give foods to the hostages as well. She agrees to it, but she tells Seol-wi not to give any food to Hai Ryong. Because Hai Ryong thought she shouldn't read books. Suho gives the gun to Gang-yu. Bun Ok tries to give foods to Chungya and Suho. But she sees Suho tying Chungya. She reports it to Jaeok-chan. Jaeok-chan tries to catch Suho. But Gang-yu points his gun at Jaeok-chan when he's fighting with Suho. Suho catches the chance to take the gun away from Jaeok-chan. Bun Ok spots it. Suho plays the recording for Chungya and Jaeok-chan. He complains that their party betrayed them for the money. But Chungya tells Suho to think about his sister. She tells him to find a way to save them and their families. So he lets her contact the party to confirm it. Seung-hee and Young-ro find some oranges from the basement. Seung-hee wants to give the oranges to the students after she tasted one of the oranges. Bun Ok shows up. She tells Young-ro that the spies got tied up. She takes her away when Seung-hee is packing the stuff. The follower reports to Jae-rock that Chungyu wants to know if she should keep Suho's life or not. Suho takes a look at the note Chungyu wrote. He learns that his father wants him to die. Young-ro hears Jaeok-chan's voice when she walks Bun Ok. She wants to return to the basement. But Bun Ok points her gun at Young-ro. Bun Ok walks into the office when she points her gun at Young-ro. She asks Suho and Gang Mu to drop their guns. She adds that she will kill Young-ro if they didn't do that. Suho persuades Bunoke that he's trying to save their lives. But Chungya provokes Bunoke and tells her to hand over Young-ro to her after Suho and Gang Mu drop their guns. Seung-hee walks into the office with the oranges. She lets Bunoke point the gun at her after she saved Young-ro. Seung-hee yells at Bunoke and tells her not to be like her sister. Bunoke is furious to shoot Seung-hee. But there's no any bullet in the gun. She throws away the gun and cries. Suho tells the hostages that the one who wants to kill them isn't him, but the ANSP. The hostages don't believe what Suho said. Gang Yu reveals the SWAT shot him when he tried to take them to get into the dormitory. Suho tells the hostages that they will get killed even if they run away from the dormitory. He tells them to do anything they want in the dormitory. He gets Seung-hee to manage them. Hai Ryong stands up and tells Suho to punish Bunoke. But he walks away, and Young-ro tells Hai Ryong that Seung-hee has known it. Bunoke returns to her room and turns on the intercom. She tries to report to Jeong-wi that Suho is working with Gang Mu. Gang Mu takes the intercom away from Bunoke and tells her that they forgave her because Seung-hee begged them. He tells her that he will take her life if she makes mistake again. Gang Mu wants to tell Han-na that Chungya is a spy. But Suho stops him. He reveals Tae-il loves Chungya deeply. He wants to use her to protect them. Snowdrop, Episode 12. Gang Yu tells Suho that he doesn't believe Chungya, even if she said that she wants to join them. Suho goes to see Chungya and unties her. But she picks up the knife from the table and stabs him from his back when he's making her tea. Suho defeats Chungya and takes off her knife. He has an eye contact with her. He picks up the knife and puts it in her hand. He tries to ask her if his father wants him to die. He tells her to stab him. She's shocked that he's the son of Jae-rock. The follower reports to Jae-rock that his son betrayed him. He tells the follower not to let Su Ryan know about it. Suho hands over the tea to Chungya. He tells her to live for herself and promises to help her leave the dormitory. He tells her to catch the chance to go to another country. Jae-rock calls Chang-su and tells him that Gang Yu works with Suho. Tae-il wants to kill all of the hostages with the bomb. But Chang-su is against it. He wants to save Young-ro first. Tae-il gives an order to the captain of the SWAT. Jeong-wi sees it. Seung-hee knocks at the door. But Bunoke doesn't open the door. Seung-hee opens the door with the key. She breaks into the room and tells Bunoke that she will kill herself if he does any stupid thing. She tells her that she has tried to protect her. Bunoke talks back that Seung-hee has used her. Seung-hee points out that Chungya used Bunoke as well. The girls see it and ask Young-ro about it. Young-ro reveals Seung-hee protected Bunoke when Bunoke pointed the gun at her. Hai Ryong brings up that Seung-hee whispered in Gang Mu's ear. She mistakes that the two had a kiss. The girls talk about ANSP is going to kill them. Young-ro feels uncomfortable, so that she goes to the church to pray. She turns around and finds out that Suho is accompanying her. She tells him that she wishes him to leave the place and go to see his sister. He tells her that he will protect her and her friends so that she can dance with them. Young-ro wishes Suho to be alive as well. He comforts her that he's a Superman. Suho turns on the TV and waits for the evidence to be exposed. But the news he wants to watch doesn't appear. The evidence is in Chang-su's hands. He tells his follower to arrest Han-na after he listened to the recording. Seung-jun stops Han-na's car and tells her that Chang-su wants to see her. She agrees to go to see Chang-su with him. But she drives the car away. Tae-il calls Suho and lets Gang Mu pick up the phone. He tells Gang Mu that he set the bombs around the dormitory. He tells him that he will detonate the bombs if he ruins their plan. But Gang Mu points out that people will know about it if he does so. Chang-su hears what Tae-il said. He takes over the phone and tells Gang Mu to think about Han-na before he makes decisions. Snowdrop, Episode 13. Young-ro protects Suho with her body. She tells Chang-su that she knows he wants to kill all of her friends. He tells her that he promised her brother to save her. He tries to catch her. But the sniper shoots Chang-su after he received the order from Tae-il. Tae-il smiles after his sniper shot Chang-su. But Jeong-wi arrives at the temple and brings the reporters. Suho takes Young-ro to return to the dormitory. Jae-ok-chan thinks they will get killed. He adds that Suho deserves the death because he betrayed his nation for beauty. Suho tells Ying-chil to prepare the lanterns for the battle. Jae-ok-chan tells Suho to untie him. But Suho rejects it because he doesn't trust Jae-ok-chan. Jae-wi tells Taeil that Chang-soo will be saved by the doctors from the hospital. He asks him what happened. Taeil is furious to yell at Jae-wi that Chang-soo was shot by Suho. He grabs his collar. Jae-wi promises to tell it to the reporters. But he reminds Taeil that Chang-soo will be a hero. A-ra gets a call from the doctor. She's told that her husband got shot. The students watch the news. They're told that the spies killed 2 of the SWAT members. They're shocked. Gang Yu tells the students that it's not true. He turns off the TV and thinks Chang-soo was shot by his colleague. Suho remembers Young-ro protected him with her body. He smiles to hold her hand. He comforts her that everyone will be fine. The president gets angry after knowing the spy hurt Chang-soo. He tells Taeil to kill all of the spies in the dormitory. Taeil tells the captain to kill all of the spies in 10 minutes. But he takes a look at the photo of Chungya. Chungya watches the news that Chang-soo got shot. She thinks Taeil did that. Jae-wi tells the reporters that they won't forgive those spies. Suho realizes that ANSP is going to wrong them again. The SWAT surround the dormitory. The girls are scared to flee to the rooms to take their masks and lanterns. Young-ro rushes out of the room after Ji-young-min told her that Chang-soo got shot. She turns on the TV and watches the news about Chang-soo. She worries about her father. The lights turn off at that time. She's lost a walk and she gets bumped by Jeong-ja. Jeong-ja throws a fit to Young-ro because she blocks her way. Suho tells Ji-young-min to take Young-ro away because he worries that she will be hurt again. Seol-wi tries to go to the library with Hai-ryung. But Gwang-tae stops them and tells them to work for ANSP. He believes that they won't get killed if they do so. Yoon-chil tries to stop Jae-ok-chan when he wants to flee. But Jae-ok-chan kicks Yoon-chil's injured leg. Suho points his gun at Jae-ok-chan before he leaves. He tells Yoon-chil to kill Jae-ok-chan if he hurts him. The SWAT break the window and throw the smoke bombs into the washroom. Hai-ryung, Seol-wi, Gwang-tae, Byung-tae cry after they were hurt by the smoke bombs. The SWAT point their gun at them. Gwang-tae tells the SWAT that he came to help them. But he gets shot. Suho takes his gun to fight with the SWAT. The 4 students catch the chance to flee. Seung-hee picks them up after they arrived at the station. Snowdrop. Episode 14. Suho is furious to point his gun at Gang-yu. He blames him for betraying him and tells him that he won't join the South because of his sister. Gang-yu drops the gun. Taeil tells Jae-wi not to give the money to the North. But he gets a call from Soo-ryan. Gang-yu thinks Suho shouldn't send Chungya to take the money because she's not an angel. Suho agrees to what Gang-yu said. He reminds him that what he did will make Chungya betray them. He tells him that he has to trust the woman, putting the note on the table. He leaves the room. Gang-yu takes a look at the note. He learns that Suho was asked to die with the hostages. Chungya gets off the elevator with Lin Tae-young. She sees the cleaner leaving her room. She finds the bug from the table lamp. Chungya goes to look for the cleaner. But the person is missing. The cleaner runs to the car after she left the hotel. She gets in the car. Snowdrop shows that the cleaner was acted by Han-ah. Suho joins Young-ro in the prayer room. He asks her if the praying will work. She realizes that something happened to him. But he denies it and thinks he got her involved. She asks him what he would do if he was a normal person. He tells her that he would sing for people. She smiles and tells him that she will go to the cafe where he sings. Soo-ryan tells Taeil that Suho is going to take his life. She hangs up after she asks for the money. He's happy to sit on the chair. But he tells Hui-jun that he worries about something. He asks him to go to check if Chang-soo is alive or not. Hui-jun walks into the ward and sees A-ra crying in front of her husband when the reporter films Chang-soo. Hui-jun calls Taeil and tells him to turn on the TV. Taeil learns that Chang-soo is going to die after he watched the news. He decides not to kill Chang-soo. Chungya tells Suho over the intercom that she got the money. She promises to return to the dormitory. She asks him to give the intercom to Gang-yu. She tells Gang-yu not to get Han-ah to bug her. He's embarrassed when Suho questions him. He tells Suho that he won't believe Chungya until he sees her. Bunoke runs into Gang-yu and sees him giving the intercom to Seung-hee. She tails them and hears Gang-yu telling Seung-hee that Chungya is going to come back for love. She finds the intercom from the room after Seung-hee left. She tells Jae-wi that Chungya is a spy with the intercom. He takes a look at Taeil who's calling Chungya. But the woman doesn't pick up his phone. A-ra calls Jae-wi and asks him for coming to the hospital. But he rejects it because he has an important task. Han-ah sees Jae-wi arriving with his followers after Chungya walked into the hotel. She opens his car and calls Chungya with the phone in the car. Chungya picks up the phone. She's told that Jae-wi comes to catch her. She flees after the police broke into her house. Jae-young gets into the room from the path Chung-yu just left. He sees his wife's photos. Chung-yu gets into Han-na's car before the police catch her. The follower hands over Tae-il and Chung-yu's photos to Jae-young. Jae-young laughs after seeing those photos. Bonoke thinks ANSP won't kill Young-ro. Sang-beom hears it and asks her about it. She refuses to tell it to him, trying to leave. But Sang-beom grabs Bonoke's hand to keep her. He tells her that he's going to beat her if she doesn't confess. She leaves to leak it to him. Sang-beom walks into the library when everyone is listening to the music. He turns off the radio and wakes Gang-yu up. He asks him why he didn't use Young-ro. Seung-hee glares at Bonoke when she Snowdrop. Episode 15. Jae-young tells his followers to leave after Tae-il asks for keeping his pride. Jae-young kicks Tae-il and makes him fall to the ground with a chair. Tae-il doesn't get angry and flatters Jae-young. Jae-young gets a call from his wife who tells him that they were fooled by the fortune teller. He goes to look for Lin Young. Jae-ok-chan gets a message from Soo-ryan who asks him to kill Soo-ho. He conceals the message and makes another one when Young-chil walks to him. Young-chil asks Soo-ho about his plan after they were told that Soo-wee will be fine. Soo-ho tells Young-chil that he intends to use Gang-yu to flee from the dormitory. Young-chil agrees to Soo-ho's plan. Chung-yu sees the police looking for her. She climbs to the rooftop and gets into her house. She finds her passport, but she remembers what Han-na said that Soo-ho's sister will get killed if she doesn't return to the dormitory. She sees someone showing up on the rooftop. She uses the mirror to take a look at the person. She finds out that he's a sniper. The sniper shoots her after he saw her. Soo-ho tells Gang-yu that they're going to release the students. Bonoke hears the talk. She worries that people will find out she helped the spy. She calls Jae-young and complains about it. But he tells her not to contact him. She walks out of the room and runs into Seung-hee. Seung-hee asks Bonoke if she leaked Chung-yu's identity to Jae-young. Bonoke admits it. She tells Seung-hee that she did it for protecting herself. Seung-hee tries to take the intercom back. She has a fight with Bonoke. The book drops. Bonoke sees the group photo of Seung-hee and another woman. She picks the photo up and shows it to Seung-hee. Bonoke tells Seung-hee that she knows the woman in the photo is her older sister. She thinks she's a spy like her older sister. Seung-hee yells at Bonoke that she and her sister aren't spies. She tells her that Jae-young killed her sister after he wronged her. Bonoke tears up after Seung-hee left the room. Jae-ok-chan tries to untie himself. Young-chil brings Deok-sim to the basement. Tae-il tells Jae-young that the president will deal with him and his families with the most cruel method if he knows he stole his money. He tells him to work with him. Jae-young gets on knees to Tae-il and asks him to help him. Tae-il tries to slap Jae-young after he untied him. But he gives up the mind, and he's told that Soo-ho is going to release all of the students. Tae-il worries that people will know he helped the spy. He goes to the camp and starts up the detonator. He tells the captain that they're going to explode the dormitory. Young-ro looks outside from the window. Soo-ho drags her back because he worries that she will be hurt. She tells him that she didn't see any camera. She thinks it means that her father didn't take action. She worries about his sister. Soo-ho comforts Young-ro that his sister won't get killed. But she's startled when she sees Jae-ok-chan holding the gun to walk to them. Soo-ho asks Jae-ok-chan to forgive Young-ro. Jae-ok-chan rejects it because he wants to protect his family. Snowdrop. Episode 16. Chang-soo is waiting for Soo-ho at the temple. But he's told that the guy has fled from the washroom. So he goes to the washroom with his followers. Mandong catches the chance to flee from the temple where his friend is waiting for him. But he finds out that Sang-beom followed him and got in the van with him. Young-ro tries to leave the temple to save Soo-ho. But Gang-yu stops her because she needs to save her friends. Mandong tells Sang-beom to get off the van. But Sang-beom rejects it and asks his father to explain it. Mandong pulls out his gun and points it at Sang-beom. Sang-beom has to get off the van. Mandong tells Sang-beom that his father is dead. He leaves. Gang-yu tells Seung-hee that he's going to protect the students once the police break into the dormitory. He wishes Sang-sik to tell the truth to people. Soo-ho gets in the car with his team members after they fled from the dormitory. The guards are checking the car. Soo-ho tells Jae-ok-chan and Young-chil to leave alone because he thinks the guards know him and Chung-ya. Han-na breaks into the broadcasting room and drives the reporters out. Sang-sik catches the chance to tell people the truth with the broadcasting. Han-na tells Gang-yu that she's going to expose herself since the evidence was destroyed. She cheers the students up. Chung-yu walks to the mountain with Soo-ho. They take a break. She hands over the water to him when it snows. She tells him that she wants to be a normal mom to take care of her children. The parents try to be close to the dormitory after knowing their children will be sacrificed for the election. But they're blocked by the police. They cry. Chang-soo releases Jeong-wei and tells him to kill Han-na. Jeong-wei arrives at the broadcasting room. Han-na sees him. She points the gun at him. But he doesn't fear it at all and breaks the window. The police catch the chance to arrest Han-na. Jeong-wei shoots Sang-sik. He tells the police to take him away. Han-na's father shows up and gives her a slap. He believes Gang-yu made his daughter do that. He reveals he asked Gang-yu to stay away from Han-na. Han-na is furious after knowing her father made Gang-yu leave her. She yells at his father. She's taken away. Gang-yu panics when Han-na doesn't pick up the radio. Seung-hee watches him and sees Bun-ok after she turned around. She confesses to Bun-ok that she told Jeong-wei that her sister was a spy because she hated her after she robbed her boyfriend. She adds that she worked for ANSP because she wanted to protect herself. Bun-ok wipes off her tears. She tells Seung-hee that she won't forgive her. Seung-hee tears up after Bun-ok left. Young-cheol and Jae-ok-chan are waiting for Suho at the port. Young-cheol gets shot when he talks about the fried chicken. Jae-ok-chan tries to fight it back with the gun. But he gets shot as well. Mandong walks to Jae-ok-chan and asks him where Suho went. Jae-ok-chan refuses to leak it so that Mandong kills Snowdrop. Episode 16 ending. Han-na arrives at the temple and tells Gang-yu to take the students out. But he sees Suho after he opened the gate. They help the students leave the temple. Suho doesn't see Young-ro and Seung-hee. He returns to the dormitory to look for them. Gang-yu joins him. He promises Han-na to be alive, telling her to take the students away. Han-na tears up when she sees Gang-yu off. She gets in the bus and wipes off her tears. She drives the bus away. Suho finds Young-ro when she's taking care of Deok-sim. He fights with the SWAT. Gang-yu joins the battle. Young-ro tears up after she saw Suho. He takes her to flee. Suho gets shot in the basement. He tells Gang-yu to take Young-ro away. Young-ro tears up because she doesn't want to leave Suho. He tears up as well when he sees her off. Gang-yu takes Young-ro to join Seung-hee. But Young-ro flees when he walks out of the temple. Young-ro finds Suho. He hugs her. Gang-yu sees the SWAT breaking into the temple. He tells Seung-hee to help Deok-sim get in the jeep. Suho takes Young-ro to flee to the house. He calls Taeil and tells him that he returned to the dormitory with the money he wants. Suho begins to spit blood. Young-ro cries after she saw the wound on his belly. The SWAT find them. Suho gets shot for protecting Young-ro. He hands over the tape to her and touches her face. He tells her to be alive. He passes away. She tries to wake him up. But she's taken away by Taeil. Ra takes away all of money from home. She steps on Chang-soo's photo before she leaves. Chang-soo, Taeil and Jeong-wei are sent to the prison. Han-na drives the jeep on the way with Gang-yu. She smiles at him when he holds a flower. Young-ro walks into the cafe. She has a seat and remembers Suho told her that he fell for her when he encountered her at the cafe. She tears up when she plays the last record Suho left to her.